The day Anne Boleyn became Queen of England, she believed her greatest dream had finally come true. She had won the heart of the most powerful king in England. She had survived years of gossip, jealousy, and dangerous political games. She believed love had conquered everything. She had no idea that only a few years later the same king who promised to love her forever would sign the order that would end her life. This is the true story of Anne Boleyn, a woman who changed English history forever. Long before Anne became queen, she was known for something unusual. She was not considered the most beautiful woman in the royal court. Many people even described her appearance as different from the fashionable beauty of her time. But Anne possessed something far more powerful than beauty. She was intelligent, confident, well-educated, and fearless. She had spent years in the royal courts of Europe, where she learned languages, music, literature, politics, and elegant manners. When she returned to England, she was unlike any other noblewoman. She could hold conversations with scholars, diplomats, and powerful men without fear. Her confidence attracted attention everywhere she went. At that time, England was ruled by King Henry VIII. He was one of the richest and most powerful kings in Europe. He already had a Queen Catherine of Aragon. Their marriage had lasted for many years. But there was one problem that haunted the king every single day. He desperately wanted a healthy male heir to continue his family line. Several children had died in infancy, and only Princess Mary survived. Henry believed England needed a prince to secure the future of the kingdom. As the years passed, his frustration grew stronger. One day, Anne arrived at the royal court as a lady-in-waiting for Queen Catherine. She never imagined that her life was about to change forever. The king quickly noticed her. Unlike many women at court, Anne refused to become his mistress. She rejected expensive gifts. She rejected secret meetings. She refused to surrender her dignity. The more she resisted, the more fascinated Henry became. For the first time in years, the powerful king found someone who could not be easily controlled. Henry began writing passionate letters to Anne. He promised that one day she would become his wife. Many people laughed at the idea. How could the King of England divorce his queen? At that time, divorce was almost impossible for a Christian king. The Pope refused to approve Henry's request to end his marriage. But Henry refused to give up. His desire to marry Anne became stronger than his loyalty to the church. This decision would eventually change the history of England forever. The conflict with Rome grew more dangerous every month. Powerful nobles, bishops, and foreign rulers watched closely as England moved toward a religious crisis. Meanwhile, Anne found herself surrounded by enemies. Many people blamed her for influencing the king. Rumors spread through the royal court. Some called her ambitious. Others called her a temptress. Some believed she had bewitched the king. Every smile, every conversation, and every decision she made became the subject of gossip. And understood the danger. One mistake could destroy everything. Yet she continued moving forward with remarkable courage. She believed that one day she would wear the English crown. She believed that every sacrifice would be worth it. She could not see the darkness waiting ahead. The love story that had begun with hope was slowly becoming one of the most tragic stories in British history. And neither Anne nor Henry realized that their greatest victory would soon become the beginning of their greatest nightmare. The years of waiting finally came to an end. King Henry VIII made the most shocking decision of his reign. He broke away from the authority of the Pope and declared himself the supreme head of the Church in England. The decision changed the future of the nation forever. It was no longer only a love story. It had become a revolution. Soon after, Anne and Henry were married in secret. Not long afterward, the marriage was announced to the kingdom. Anne Boleyn was crowned Queen of England in a magnificent ceremony at Westminster Abbey. Golden banners filled the streets. Church bells echoed across London. Thousands of people gathered to witness the new queen. Some cheered with excitement. Others watched in silence. Many still believed Queen Catherine was the rightful queen, and could feel both admiration and hatred wherever she went. She had finally achieved everything she had dreamed about. She now sat beside the most powerful king in England. She believed their future would be filled with happiness. Only a few months later, Anne gave birth to a baby girl. The child was named Elizabeth. Henry smiled with pride, but deep inside he had hoped for a son. No one could have imagined that little Elizabeth would one day become one of the greatest monarchs in British history. At first, Anne believed there would be more children. She remained confident that a prince would soon be born. But fate had different plans. Over the following years, Anne suffered heartbreaking miscarriages. Each loss brought more sorrow into the royal palace. With every passing month, Henry became colder. The warmth that once filled their marriage slowly disappeared. The king began spending more time away from Anne. He surrounded himself with new advisors and new companions. Whispers once again spread through the royal court. People noticed another young woman had caught the king's attention. Her name was Jane Seymour, and tried to remain strong. She continued attending royal ceremonies and carrying out her duties as queen. But she could feel the ground beneath her beginning to disappear. The same nobles who once praised her now avoided her. Former friends became silent. Powerful enemies grew more confident. The court that had once celebrated her success was now watching and waiting for her downfall, and knew that in the royal court love was never enough. Power was everything, and power could disappear in a single moment. She still believed Henry would remember the promises he had made. She believed the man who had changed an entire kingdom for her would never abandon her. She was wrong. Far beyond the palace walls, secret conversations had already begun. Men loyal to the king were collecting rumors and searching for accusations. Every word and spoke was being watched. Every friendship she had was being questioned. Without realizing it, the queen had stepped into a trap that was slowly closing around her. The crown that once made her the happiest woman in England was about to become the reason for her destruction. And the darkest chapter of Anne Boleyn's life was only just beginning. No one warned, and that her final days had already begun. In the spring of 1536, everything changed with terrifying speed. The king's closest advisors accused Anne of crimes that shocked the entire kingdom. She was charged with treason, adultery, and plotting against the life of the king. The accusations spread across England like wildfire. People could not believe what they were hearing. Some believed the charges were true. Others believed Anne had become the victim of a dangerous political conspiracy. Without mercy, Anne was arrested and taken through the gates of the Tower of London. The same fortress where kings celebrated victories had become her prison. As the heavy doors closed behind her, Anne realized she might never leave alive. Inside the cold stone walls, she was questioned again and again. She insisted that she had done nothing wrong. She declared her innocence with courage and dignity. But the verdict had already begun to take shape long before the trial. The courtroom was filled with powerful nobles. Many of them had once bowed before their queen. Now they sat in silence as witnesses spoke against her. Evidence was weak. Rumors were treated as facts. Fear became stronger than justice. Anne defended herself with remarkable intelligence. She answered every accusation calmly. Even those who disliked her admitted she spoke with confidence. But nothing could change the king's decision. The jury declared her guilty. The sentence was death. News of the verdict spread across England. Some people celebrated the fall of the queen. Others watched with sadness, believing an innocent woman was about to die, and spent her final days praying and preparing herself for what was coming. She remained calm even as death moved closer. On the morning of her execution, she walked toward the scaffold with incredible courage. Witnesses later said she appeared peaceful and composed. She asked the crowd not to blame the king. Instead, she prayed that God would protect England. A skilled swordsman from France had been chosen to carry out the execution quickly. Within moments, Anne Boleyn was gone. She was believed to be about 35 years old. Only days later, King Henry married Jane Seymour. The speed of the marriage shocked many across Europe. It seemed as though Anne had already been forgotten by the man who once changed an entire kingdom just to be with her. But history never forgot her. Her daughter Elizabeth would later become Queen Elizabeth I. She ruled England for more than 40 years and became one of the greatest monarchs in British history. The woman whose birth had disappointed her father would lead England into a golden age. Centuries later, historians still debate whether Anne was guilty or innocent. Many believe the accusations against her were created to remove her from the throne. Others continue to study the mystery, searching for answers that may never be found. Anne Boleyn lost her crown. She lost her freedom. She lost her life. But she gained something far greater. She became one of the most unforgettable queens in history. Her story reminds us that in the world of kings and queens, power can disappear overnight. And sometimes the most dangerous place in the world is not the battlefield. It is the royal court. History remembered Anne Boleyn as the queen who lost everything. She lost her crown. She lost her family. She lost her freedom. And in the end, she lost her life. But there was one thing no king, no court, and no executioner could ever take from her: her place in history. Only a few years after her death, her young daughter Elizabeth became Queen of England. The little girl many people had once called a disappointment grew into one of the greatest rulers Britain had ever known. Under Queen Elizabeth I, England entered a golden age. The nation became stronger. Exploration expanded across the world. Art, literature, and culture flourished. Ironically, the daughter Anne had given birth to became the greatest legacy she left behind. Nearly 500 years have passed. Yet historians continue to debate the truth. Was Anne Boleyn truly guilty? Or was she the victim of politics, ambition, and a king who wanted a different future? No one can answer that question with complete certainty. Many records were written by people with their own loyalties and motives. What remains undeniable is that Anne changed the course of English history forever. Without Anne Boleyn, there may never have been Queen Elizabeth I. Without Elizabeth, the history of Britain might have been completely different. Anne came to court as a young noblewoman with dreams. She became a queen admired by some and hated by others. She faced betrayal, fear, and impossible choices. And when her final moment arrived, she faced it with remarkable courage. Her story is not only about power. It is not only about love. It is not only about betrayal. It is a reminder that behind every crown is a human heart. A heart that can dream. A heart that can break. And a heart that history will never forget. What do you believe? Was Anne Boleyn an ambitious queen who took a dangerous risk? Or was she an innocent woman destroyed by the ruthless politics of the Tudor court? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy discovering the hidden stories behind history, subscribe for more true stories that change the world forever.